Hi, it's Vera Carter. I'm going to talk today about reading the wind. And we're here outside. It's a beautiful day. You can see over my shoulder is our target range just beyond the hill behind me. This is an introductory video. So some of you advanced shooters, this will be fairly basic for you, but bear with me. I just want to get everybody on the same page as far as technical jargon on the range, just to start. So when you think of reading the wind, we talk in terms of the clock face. The target is at 12 o'clock, and behind you, your back is 6 o'clock. So if the wind's coming from your back, it's a 6 o'clock tailwind. It's coming towards your face, it's a 12 o'clock headwind. If the wind is coming from your right and blowing towards your left, that's a 3 o'clock wind. If it's coming from your left to your right, that's a 9 o'clock wind. Simple, but let's just get that out of the way so that when I start talking wind, everybody will understand what direction I'm talking about. The long-range shooters are going to talk about wind values. Now, if you have a crosswind, a 3 o'clock or a 9 o'clock wind, that's a full value wind. Why do we call it a full value wind? It's because that crosswind is impacting along the entire side of the bullet as it goes down range. So it's impacting it on its full value wind. If the wind's coming from 12 o'clock or it's coming from 6 o'clock, that's a zero value wind. It's not going to have any effect on the bullet as far as its horizontal trajectory. Zero value wind. And of course, if you've got a 1 or 2 o'clock wind or a 4 or 5 o'clock wind, that's a half value wind. A half value wind is going to affect the bullet half of the distance as it would for a full value. So easy peasy, but I just wanted to get everybody on the same page as far as technical jargon. So why do we even have to know what to call something? Well, for obvious communication reasons. If you've got a spotter, you're a long-range shooter, the spotter's going to talk to you in terms of you've got a full value wind, you've got a half value wind, or a no value wind. So that way the shooter knows how much he has to adjust his scope for the windage, for the horizontal adjustment, or how much he has to hold off. And also, if I'm out on the range and I want to coach somebody, or somebody comes to me and they're struggling and they're not understanding why they're losing shots and they can't get their groups together, I'll say to them, look, I've been having some real success with that 7 o'clock light condition. Why don't you switch from what you're shooting and wait for that 7 o'clock condition to come around, and you'll have a lot better luck on the range. So it just gives you a communication vehicle. There's other ways we do this on the range too. For example, a lot of us short-range bench rest shooters just tend to buy the same powder measures, just because that way the number of clicks on the measure is the same. We can all talk the same language, so if we want to share information on our loads, we can talk to each other without having to explain what the powder loads are. So this is just communication vehicle. So let's get to the heart of the matter. I want to know how much my bullet is going to be impacted if I'm shooting in a full value condition. So this is interesting because a full value condition will impart vertical to your bullet trajectory as well as horizontal. So that a lot of folks don't realize that, and the reason is because of the barrel twist. We shoot right twist barrels. You can specify, you can ask for a left twist barrel if you want, but for the most part we have a right twist barrel which imposes a clockwise spin on the bullet. Over a long range, independent of the wind, that gyroscopic effect of that bullet spinning is going to stabilize the bullet, but it's also going to cause it to drift low and to the right over long range. That's called spin drift, which is a little bit different than what we're talking about here as far as wind conditions. So getting back to the wind, if I have a 9 o'clock wind, okay, which is coming from your left to your right, then that's going to cause the bullet to go to the left, okay, 9 o'clock winds, your left to the right. Sorry, I'm backwards here, so I'm getting a little mixed up. But if you've got a 9 o'clock wind, that's going to move the bullet to the right, but it's also going to move it lower on the target, which is really interesting. And because it's moving the bullet with the spin of the bullet, it's going to move it farther than if you had a 3 o'clock wind. So a condition that's a left to right condition, a 9 o'clock condition, it can move the bullet a fair distance, even at 100 yards down and to the right, depending on the wind velocity. Now a 3 o'clock condition is going to do the opposite. The bullet is going to buck the wind. The bullet spin is actually going to buck the wind, and that bullet is going to be driven up and to the left. So the vertical component, it's not intuitive that you've got vertical is going to be injected into that point of impact just because of a horizontal crosswind. So that's an interesting point, just a tip to think about. If we talk about no value wind, 12 o'clock headwind, that's going to slow the bullet down. It's going to increase on the drag of the bullet. The bullet's going to take longer to get to the target, which means gravity is going to impact on it longer. It's going to drop, the point of impact is going to drop on the target relative to a no condition at all, no wind condition. Similarly, a 6 o'clock condition, a tailwind, that's going to push on the base of the bullet. Bullet's going to get to the target faster. Now we're talking microseconds, but it'll make a difference, trust me. And so that bullet is going to hit higher on the target. It's going to climb on the target with relative to no wind at all. So those are just ways in which the full value and the no value conditions can affect the bullet trajectory. Half values are going to be the same. They're going to be a little bit of both. If you have a half value condition that's in a headwind, it's going to roughly have half of the effect on the bullet as a full value wind or a strong headwind. Okay, so those things, and those are pure conditions that I'm talking about. If you get onto a real range, you're going to have other obstacles which is going to affect the wind. We'll get into that in a subsequent video. That's where things get really interesting. So if you're watching this video anywhere except my blog on precisionshooting.ca, come on over to the website. That's where the conversations are going to happen. If you're on YouTube, give me a like, give me a thumbs down, whatever you feel like. Give me your comments. I really like to know what you think of the video, and anything that you can think that you would like to see in upcoming videos. I'd really appreciate your feedback. So until the next time, let's stay on target. Cheers.